Okay. Well, there's no one on yet.
That's all right, you're live.
All right. Hello everyone, and welcome to the first Kinaway TV webinar series. Today we're very excited to launch Kinaway TV, and we're glad to have everybody on today. Today's presenter is Chantel Thompson, Barkinji warrior, and we're just very excited. So enjoy the Oh, also one other thing. So the presentation will be 45 minutes, and then we're going to have 15 minutes for questions. So feel free to put your questions in the chat, and we'll save them to the end. So I'm going to bring in Chantel, and thank you everyone.
Thank you so much, Liam. Hi everyone, Chantel Thompson, a proud Barkinji Nimpa Mulliangappa European woman of descent. And I would like to begin by acknowledging and paying my respects to the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nations, and pay my respects to elders, both past and present, and to their ancestors and my ancestors for their continuous custodianship of the land on which we currently live, work and play. And I thank my ancestors and my guiding elders, for without them I wouldn't be the woman that I am today, or have this story or this knowledge to share with you, because it is through them and through my lived experience that I sit here today, and just I'm so grateful for everyone that is giving up your time, and to Kinaway for investing in our people and our community like this. So I pay that respect, and I also acknowledge our young ones, because they are the future, and they're the reason that I get up each day and continue to do what I do and why I'm in business. So now we'll go to our workshop. So why are we here today, and why does it matter, is probably something that's really kind of, I guess, important for me to, I guess, unpack with you all, because between COVID and everything that's happened over the last few months, particularly with the Black Lives Matters movement, I believe that according to Kinaway's data, 50% of all Aboriginal businesses have closed down, and even more have been severely impacted. And to me, it's heartbreaking, but it also shows how fragile the Indigenous ecosystem is, because it's still so new. We have only been offered the freedom and the opportunity to pursue business. It's not a world that's been open to us, or one that has been taught to many of us. I don't know very many people that are second or third generation business owners. I know I'm the first in my family to finish school out of my parents. I'm the first in my family to go to university, and I'm the first in my family to get a degree. So to me, it's about breaking those boundaries, and business to me is an opportunity to move a lot faster and create change a lot faster for ourselves, and move towards economic empowerment and self-determination, rather than the slow lanes of government and past policies and procedures. And today we'll be discussing what is the warrior within and the warrior way. Why does it matter now? Who am I and what qualifies me to speak on this? What does it mean to be, lead, and serve from the heart? What is the difference between heart set and mindset? What does it mean to live courageously? What and how can we dare greatly? And how can we build more of this into our lives? To me, the warrior is not someone, it's not about being in a physical confrontation. It's not about being a soldier who goes to war. That's a component of it, but it's not everything. Is forced to take a stand. They fight for what they believe in, but not to hurt others, but with the intention to protect and serve those they love and what they stand for. And there's this beautiful quote that I found when searching for meaning around this idea that I had. It's the warrior is not someone who fights, for no one has the right to take another life. The warrior for us is the one who sacrifices himself for the good of others. His task is to take care of the elderly, the defenseless, those who cannot provide for themselves, and above all, the children, the future of humanity. Sitting Bull, Chief of the Lakota Nation. Now, First Nations people around the world, we don't own the land owns us. We are custodians of that, not just for ourselves in this generation, but to honour those who have come before us, and in respect and ownership of the next generations to come. And these two other quotes really explain, for me anyway, at this current point in time, what the warrior is and why it's important. The man in the arena. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how strong not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Now, being in the arena could be at school, it could be in the workplace, it could be at the home, and it can be within yourself. But having the courage to take a stand and do what you need to do within your sphere of influence to take the next right step, or to choose to lead with courage and to do what makes you feel uncomfortable because you believe in something bigger. To me, that's about being in the arena. And those that are in the arena and have the knowledge and the skills can then reach out to those who don't have those skills, or they don't know how to do those things or how to do that work, and they can teach and share their knowledge. And Marianne Williamson's quote, "Our fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There is nothing enlightened about shrinking, so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine as children do. We were born to manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it's in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence automatically liberates others." Now, for some, they have had a better starting point to be able to step out of their fear and step into their light. But for many who have experienced intergenerational trauma, adversity, and big challenges, or they've had their heart or their spirit broken, sometimes the darkness can seem overwhelming and difficult to climb out of. And I think now more than ever, this is why the warrior within and the warrior way is so powerful and so important. It's not a mindset, it's a heart set, and it's a way of being. It becomes who you are, how you walk in the world, and it can guide you on the days where the world becomes overwhelming, and it can help you get back up again if the darkness has swallowed you up. But then it can also allow us to do the work and then extend our hand to others and help others. I strongly believe that we all hold the key to our own chains, but how do we know how to unlock those chains? How do we know to begin this journey with the warrior within? And this quote from Paulo Coelho, who is a Brazilian writer, and he wrote a book called The Manual of the Warrior of Light. to me, reading and researching has really helped me to unpack the knowledge that I already held innately within me, that was gifted to me by my ancestors, and have called for me to step into this space and really starting to ask the questions, what is a warrior and what does it mean? Because in my community, I'm known as the Barkinji warrior. And this quote is, a warrior of light is someone who has been afraid to enter combat, has betrayed and lied in the past, has lost faith in the future, has trodden a path which was not his own, has suffered because of unimportant things, has doubted that he was a warrior of light, has failed in his spiritual obligations, has said yes when he means no, has hurt someone he loved. This is why he or she are warriors of light. They have endured all of this without losing the hope to improve. And I think with any Indigenous person that has gone into business, it has been with the hope to not only have economic self-determination, but for themselves, but also for their families and our wider communities. And it's been with the hope to create a difference and to break the chains of the past. As I said, my name is Chantel Thompson, and I come from a deep line of connection and culture that at a time was broken, but I found my way back to. And the reason I have come to have the warrior spirit is because of who I am within me, but also because of the things that I have experienced. I am the second eldest of 17 siblings. I grew up in a small town in northwestern New South Wales, the second eldest of 17 siblings. And when you're a fair-skinned girl, you don't fit in with the white kids and you don't fit in with the black kids. So I had to find a sense of belonging within myself and the strength to keep moving forward, even when I didn't know where I was headed. And being the oldest in my family household, I was raised by a single father and guided by my grandmother, who was a mechanic during the war. What kind of kept me going through all of the adversity that I faced, I was sexually abused at the age of 6. I was bullied. I experienced lateral violence. There was family violence for a low socioeconomic family. I had a fractured schooling, so I struggled through my schooling, and I didn't have access to an education system that believed in me or backed my potential. So I had to find a way to believe in myself. And it was because I was always looking after my younger siblings, and I looked around me and I realized that's not the life that I wanted for myself, even though I didn't know what the options were for something different. And from that, I became determined to pursue education. I wanted to become a teacher after school. So what qualifies me to speak about the warrior within, or leadership, or overcoming adversity? I have failed year 12. I repeated. It took me 10 years to finish my teaching degree. I have a double degree in arts and education. I suffered severe postnatal depression after the birth of my twins, and I tried to suicide. There were a lot of social implications around me having depression, and this all kind of came to a head when I realized that I had to be the one to help myself, not just for myself, but because of those that I love. And this is a photo of my 2 girls taken in 2018 at the NAIDOC Because of Her We Can. And this is why I get up and fight, because it's my responsibility to continue the work of my ancestors, and it's to fight to create a different narrative and to break the cycle for my children. I have 3 children. I have a 13-year-old daughter and I have 10-year-old twins. And it was after the birth of my twins that I developed severe postnatal depression, and I found Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and used it as a form of physical therapy. So despite the adversity that I faced in my life, I always realized that it was on me to do something about it and to rise up and try and take that next step. And it was never just about me, but by me being able to lead myself, I was able to better lead those that I love and serve, and to honor the past and those who came before me and those who are yet to come. How I found my way to this journey was just by taking one step at a time. A lot of the time I had a dream in my heart or a vision, and I didn't have a roadmap. I didn't have a blueprint for how to succeed because I'd never been shown that, and I didn't have anyone to look to learn that. So it was always about going, okay, I've got this feeling in my heart, I've got this vision, this dream, and I'm just going to take the next step. And that's how I've ended up to where I am. I now have 3 degrees. I have a postgraduate degree of Indigenous trauma and recovery because I wanted to understand the impacts of trauma so that I could better help those that I work with. And youth, women and girls in First Nations communities have always been my heart work, but I work with human beings. I want to inspire and empower people to overcome adversity, to believe in possibility, and to find their warrior within so that they can become the creators of their own life. And that's kind of what led me to business. I had a dream of becoming a world champion in a sport that was self-funded. It was a minority sport, so it wasn't a government-funded sport. And being an older female and a mum of 3 kids, I had to find a way to support my family and also support my training so that I can compete. I'm now a 3-time world champion in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I've been on the national team for freestyle wrestling. I tried out for the Olympics. I was on the shadow team for the Commonwealth Games. And I have been in business for 4 years, but I've been doing this work for 15. And I run trauma-informed self-development programs. I share my story. I run workshops around courage and resilience. And at the bottom of everything I do, I want to empower people to be able to understand how to do for themselves. So my story is the vehicle to show what is possible. My journey and everything I learn and everything I try along the way is about me seeing what is possible. It's not to impress people, but it's rather when I share this story, I can inspire people to see the potential of what is possible. And I want to be able to learn and understand different skill sets on how to do these things so then I can show other people and give them the blueprint for how to be successful and to be able to define for themselves. The dragonfly and the painting to the left has been designed for my business, and it's about community. It's about the ripple effects of the choices that we make as individuals impact our wider communities and collectively, but also our community collectively influences us in both negative and positive ways. And business has been a way to, I guess, pursue providing for my family, providing for my sport, but also to have an impact and to reach a wider audience. I have been fortunate enough to work with probably 1,000 young people over the last 5 years through partnerships with different organizations like the Kurungamaji Institute and teaching jiu-jitsu to them. But it's about using that as a vehicle to engage with people, to challenge their perceptions around their own limitations, their own limiting self-beliefs, and the potential of what is possible for them if they're willing to sit with themselves and do the work and come out the other side. This is a photo of my daughter at a time when I was questioning my journey and the time I took away from my kids to travel and to compete and to really question why I was doing things. And it was after a training session that I'd had a really hard time. I'd just lost a big competition, and my daughter came to me and she sat me down and she goes, "Mummy, you're still upset that you lost?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "But did you learn something?" And I said, "Yes." She goes, "Did you have fun?" I said, "No, I didn't, because I lost." And she goes, "But do you love jiu-jitsu?" And I said, "Yes." And she did this interrogation for 5 minutes. And I realized that she was doing to me what I had done to her. So every day before school, I say to my kids, listen, learn, have fun, and try your best. And at the end of the day, when we see each other again, I say, what did you hear today? What did you learn? How did you feel? What did you try your best in? And what did you enjoy? So my little girl was using that to help me overcome my disappointment in losing a major competition and through a time when I was really struggling. And to me, that's where I realized that it wasn't what I was saying to the people that I worked with or my children or my community. It was more important who I was being in whatever role, whether that was through business, whether that was through my sport, whether that was by being a mum or being a big sister or an auntie. And the image to the left is the program that I run for women and girls and youth. And it's about finding your power within. It's about giving people a vehicle and creating a safe space for people to find their own potential, their own courage. Because when one person steps into their courage, they find their own sense of belonging within themselves, and they can have the courage to move forward with their dream or vision in life. That has ripple effects for those that they're connected to. And if we can do that one individual at a time, and we ourselves can do the work on ourselves, it has a ripple effect on those that we love and serve, whether it be in business or your personal life. For me, it's about facing myself. It's about understanding why I'm here. And the journey that I've been through, both in unpacking my own intergenerational trauma, through my own life experience, but also through my mum, my parents and my grandparents, and really doing the work, showing up to do the self-work and stepping into those things so that I can better serve those that I work with and the vision that I have. Because the more work that I do, the more I break that chain and the more I create opportunities and freedom for the next generation. And these are some of the roles that I hold. I'm a teacher, I'm a speaker, I'm a mentor and a guide, I'm a mum, I'm an athlete, and more importantly, I get to work with young people and people who are ready to step into that next level of themselves. They're ready to see what their own potential is. What does the world have to offer them on the other side of it? And all my job is to facilitate that space for them to feel safe enough to do that and to share my knowledge and skills that I've learnt from being an athlete, a mum, a business owner, studying and just living life. So I combine my lived, learned and earned experiences to teach and guide others and to share with them how I've gotten to where I've gotten to and how they can do it for themselves. Now, what does it mean to be, lead and serve from the heart? Be. It's where you live from your heart and who you are at your core, because a lot of Western culture teaches us to be very much in our mind. You'll hear some people say that they speak from the gut, but within Aboriginal culture, it's about sitting deep within yourself, and it's about that deeper connection to yourself, to the country, to the world, and to your community. And I think that the more of us that can sit and do that and have the courage to be vulnerable, to be our true selves in the world, that has ripple effects, and it will start to move out into the world in a wider way. And we're going to create change both systemically and personally and socially, and we can start to break down those things. And I think now more than ever, COVID has shown us that we can do things differently. It's shown us that there's a call to step in and use this time to create change in a way that we haven't seen in the world globally in a really long time. It's forced people to lose their jobs. It's forced people to sit at home and not be so busy. And it's calling for us to create a new way of being and doing work and serving in the world. Your heart is what you can use to guide your choices and actions in life. Sometimes our mind, we can overthink things. Our mind is negatively geared anyway. And if you read any psychology or you've done any leadership programs, it always says that we have unconscious bias. We're always negatively geared, and that's where our preconceptions sit. It's where our anxiety and our nervous energy can come from. And I find for me, anytime I start to be too much in my head, that's when I go to jiu-jitsu and I reconnect with my physical body, but it also allows me to create space to connect back to my heart and to stop and take a deep breath and go, okay, what is my purpose? Why am I on this earth? And why am I in this space and time? And am what I'm doing and who am I being, is that in alignment with those visions and those goals? Or is it is there some sort of break and there's something that I need to attend to. And it allows me to breathe and just focus on what is the next best step. And for me, the ego is not in charge here. The ego serves a very important part of our development as human beings, but sometimes it can be our own downfall. And it has been the cause of a lot of power struggles. It has been the cause of people being in leadership positions and choosing to only serve themselves or a profit value rather than about having impact and growth for those that they serve. And that's definitely a First Nations way of doing business. And I hope that anyone that's listening to this that has been affected by COVID or the Black Lives Matters movement, or is just feeling overwhelmed and lost, by creating space to sit with yourself and reconnect to what your purpose is and going, okay, what's the next step that I can take to move forward through this time? Is it reaching out for help? Is it connecting with someone and talking with someone? What does it mean to lead from the heart? We all lead someone, even if it's only ourselves. And often there's a saying, treat others how you want to be treated. But sometimes a lot of us, we don't speak to ourselves very nicely, and we speak to other people better than we would speak to ourselves. So I often say to my children, it's treat yourself and speak to yourself as you would to someone that you love. And I find that when I focus on who I'm leading and why I'm leading, it allows me to make better choices, particularly when I come from the heart and I put aside ego or pain or any emotions I'm feeling. And I'm like, okay, what is the truth in this moment and what is the next best step? And when we learn to lead ourselves first, we can learn to lead others with integrity, empathy, and compassion, because who you're choosing to be in the world and how you choose to take care of yourself, how you choose to invest in yourself, will determine the level and the capacity at which you can show up and lead others. And what does it mean to serve from the heart? Leadership to me is about service. And it's about service for a purpose. Sometimes it means being up the front. Sometimes it means being at the back and pushing people forward. And sometimes it's being the change that you want to see in the world. Right now, I believe we're being called to be the leaders that we want to see in the world in each and every moment, at home, within ourselves, within our workspaces and our communities. It's being there for your people to serve and empower and lift them up. And that could be something as simple as creating space for open conversation and going, okay, where are we at right now and where do we want to go? And when we create safe spaces for people to be seen, to be valued, and to truly feel like they belong, that's when we know we get the best out of our people, and we can really start to uncover what is the best that people have to bring to the table. And we know that that's when we get true value, true impact, and true momentum as well. And being in alignment with how and why you are connecting to your people and the people that you serve through your family, your work, your business, and your community. Because when you understand why you're in those spaces, what is your purpose for being in those spaces, and what are your values and what are the behaviors aligned to those values, it doesn't mean we're always going to get it right, but that becomes our principles. Those become our guideposts for when we want to show up. And if we check in with those things each day, we can slowly start to create momentum towards being our best and doing our best in the day-to-day and the moment-to-moment. What is the difference between heart set and mindset? A mindset is a way of operating in the world. It's a set of assumptions, methods, or notations held by one or more people or groups of people. A mindset can also be seen as an incident of a person's worldview or philosophy, such as growth mindset versus fixed mindset. Being an athlete, you very much know about having a mental toughness and having a champion's mindset. So being able to visualize what it is that you want and being able to have that belief in yourself that you are capable and worthy of winning or going after what you want. And as an athlete, you learn that working on your mind and your ability to visualize and discipline the mind is very important. And that sometimes is more important and a determiner in whether you win or lose than how well or how talented you are or how good your skills are. Because you'll see a lot of athletes or a lot of high performance people who do well in practice, but when it comes time to perform, they struggle to show up because the nerves get the better of them. They start focusing externally on their opponent or the crowd. And that's very much a mindset. For me, a heart set is getting out of your head and reconnecting back into the body. It's connecting back into your heart and what truth lies in your heart. Like, why are you in that space? Why are you in business? And that also incorporates mindfulness. It's about going, your heart doesn't lie. It holds your truth. And if you know what that truth is and you use that as your guiding star, the Maori talk about mana, the spirit, and that having that spirit and the courage to follow your heart can be your guiding thing that guides you through how you operate in the world, how you show up, and how you choose to lead and serve in your spaces and your spheres of influence. And how do you let your truth guide your mindset? Well, it's this balance of the ego, your gut, your heart set, and your mindset. So it's about finding that balance and that congruency between the spiritual, the physical, and the emotional self, and the mental self as well. And that's about creating space to sit with yourself and going, okay, this is my purpose. These are the people I serve. This is the reality of kind of where I'm at, because I like to operate under, I live in the world as it is, but I'm working towards the world that I want to live in. And that allows me to accept the reality of the spaces that I'm living and working in, the spaces and the reality of what I have to do in the day-to-day to create those opportunities and those spaces for the people that I serve. For example, a truth that lies in my heart is that young people are the future, and I don't like the world that we're in at the moment that the next generation is going to inherit. So what can I do as a person to create a better world and a better space for young people to inherit and to step into? I can work with young people to teach them everything I know. I can be a person that they can look to and go, well, if Chantel can do it, then so can I. But then I can also influence society and the systems that have been built from hundreds of years ago and that don't serve the world as it is and the world that we are growing into with its diversity, its complexity, and the opportunities as well. And that to me is about how I can let my truth guide my mindset. And your heart set comes from a deeper place of meaning and connection to yourself. And it's also something beyond yourself. For me, it's my ancestors. It's sitting and waiting for them old people to see what they're calling for me to do. There is an elder here in Melbourne, Uncle Mark Rose, and I met him last year. I was fortunate enough to study under him during a leadership program, and he spoke about your ancestral mandate. And what he meant by that was that everything you had experienced in life was there to serve a purpose. And that if something had kept repeating itself, it's because you hadn't learned the lesson yet from that event or that problem or that behavior. And your ancestral mandate was what the ancestors had written out for you to do. But it was also for you to be able to hear them so that you could understand that and start to live and play out that mandate. It's your principles. It's why you're here. And sometimes I think we put so much pressure on ourselves to find that. And that's where the ego can sometimes take over from, and living too much in the mind can take us away and disconnect us from our heart. And I believe that with technology and the fast moving pace of the world, we don't have that space or time to sit with ourselves and reconnect with who are we really at our core. And that to me is where the ancestral mandate comes in. It takes that pressure off because it's not just about me. It's not just about what I want to do or what am I being, like what are the dreams that I have. It's what am I being called to do and how am I being called to show up and serve. And that shifts and changes and ebbs and flows depending on what's happening in my world and the bigger world as well. please, if you have any questions at any point or you want me to stop, just pop a question in the chat box and Liam will let me know if we have any questions. So yeah, I want this to be interactive and beneficial for everyone that's shown up and invested your time today. What does it mean to live courageously? Now, for me, I believe that courage has been a skill that has helped me get to where I am today and has helped me believe that something was possible, even though I didn't know how to get there. I didn't know how to do that thing. When I first started jiu-jitsu, I used jiu-jitsu as a form of physical therapy to treat my postnatal depression. I never had any intentions of becoming a world champion or becoming a speaker or traveling the world doing a sport that I love. Jiu-jitsu gave me a map to find myself. It gave me a way to learn to sit with myself, because fighting in jiu-jitsu with anger or too much emotion and not knowing how to channel that emotion to serve you can be very destructive in terms of it allows your opponent an opening to control you. You have no self-control. You usually don't have any self-awareness when you're operating purely through emotion. So it's about learning to channel that emotion and self-mastery as well. And I had to be courageous to take those first steps. When I decided I wanted to try and be a world champion, I had to explain to my community, my family, and a lot of people didn't believe me. And what I realized after a really long time is that it wasn't that people were jealous or trying to pull me down. It wasn't tall poppy syndrome. It was something deeper. They didn't believe that what I was doing was possible, because we had lived in such a limited mindset for so long that I was doing something that no one else had done before, particularly no one in my community. So for me, it was about taking those steps so that I could bring other people on the journey. I could show them what was possible by being courageous. I didn't know if I could be a world champion. I didn't actually even believe that I could. But what was more important for me was walking that journey and seeing what was possible, to ask, rather than asking what if. I wanted to be able to answer the question and have a story to share with other people. And Brené Brown is an author, she's a speaker, and her expertise is courage and vulnerability. And her definition of courage, that it's a heart word, and that the root of the word courage is core and Latin. It means to speak one's mind by telling all of one's heart, so to speak the truth of one's heart. It can also be daring, audacious, boldness, grit, bravery, and rising above your fear. But to me, the true definition of courage is having the courage to know the truth in your heart and being able to speak that and live that out. And more often than not, courage does not shout. It whispers in your heart, what if? Maybe I'll try one more time. I'll take one more step. Moving to Melbourne, leaving my country, leaving my family, bringing my young children to Melbourne, where they wouldn't grow up connected to our community as strongly as they would be in their day-to-day lives, was very difficult. And I had to believe enough in myself and the vision that I had that no one else could see to be able to make those decisions and make that move. I'd never been an elite athlete. I wasn't even an athlete as a kid. I wasn't even sporty, but I grew up fighting. And I wanted to see what my potential was if I followed through on that whisper. And it's been a very interesting journey over the last 5 years. I've had to put myself out there. I've tried to get sponsorship. I've put myself forward for interviews. I've been knocked back. I've been beaten on international TV. I've been made to face plant. I've been dumped on my head. But I keep getting back up, because that whisper inside of me goes, just one more step, one more time. And sometimes that one more time means I've had my hand raised and I've been crowned a world champion, but the medal means nothing to me. It's personally fulfilling and it's satisfying to have them. But what's more important is the story that I can then tell others. It's what that medal represents and what it allows me to teach other people, particularly people who think that they can't do or be anything more than what they are. Who are stuck by their own belief systems or something that's happened in the past, or stereotypes or social expectations or social conditioning. through the story that I have and who I am, through my lived, learned, and earned experiences, I can sit with people and create a space where they can be challenged safely. They can be seen for the potential of who they can become rather than who they're being, but they can also learn how to do that for themselves. It's the ability to act on your own beliefs, that your why is more important than your fear. We're always going to feel fear, and we live in social conditioning where it's you don't want to put your head too high. And if you believe in yourself enough to say no to people, or to say this is more important, or to say this is who I am and this is who I'm going to be, it can be perceived as arrogance. But confidence and believing in yourself and being proud of yourself is something different to arrogance. It's about going, this is who I am. I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of, and I know what I've achieved. And it's about sitting with that and being able to speak your truth. And that, like Marianne Williamson says, when we give ourselves permission to shine, we unconsciously give others permission to do the same. The way you walk into a room, the way you do business, what you go after matters, because that energy ripples out into those spaces that you occupy. And it can help you take the next step. It is the power and heart set to act and move forward in the face of your fear. And it can help you overcome or manage in the face of uncertainty, pain, and challenges. How do we dare greatly? And what does daring greatly even mean? I think now more than ever, we have more division in the world than ever before. We have more technology. I think in the last 10 years, we've advanced more technologically and have more access to information than at any other point in human history. And it's only growing faster. But is that necessarily a good thing? To me, keeping connection with our humanistic skills, what they call the soft skills, is actually, it's the hardest thing to do, is to be soft and to lean into things when you're in a world that expects you to show up, perform. You've got motivation videos that say you've got to want it more than you can breathe, don't sleep, no days off, no rest. But that's also why we have burnout. That's why we have elite athletes that have had mental illness. That's why we've had people commit suicide. And daring greatly is sometimes about doing what you know is right, even though it doesn't seem to make sense to everything else that's going on. It's about having the bravery to go, actually, this is the next right step, even if no one else backs you. Brene Brown has written a book called Daring Greatly and Daring Leadership. And she speaks that every day we experience the uncertainty, risks, and emotional exposure that define what it means to be vulnerable or to dare greatly. Daring greatly is not about winning or losing. It's about courage. In a world where never enough dominates and feeling afraid has become second nature, vulnerability is subversive. It means being able to be vulnerable and do the next best step and leading from the heart while you're managing your fears. It's about facing the risk and the uncertainty, because what we hold in our hearts is worth daring greatly for and is worth the risk of failure. To be in the arena means to be daring greatly, whatever your arena is. And for each of us, what daring greatly looks and feels like will mean many different things and have many different feels. So it is not for us to judge what someone else is going through, but rather than when we feel certain and comfortable and we know our truth, we can then create space for others to be and do and lead for themselves as well, and provide support in whatever shape or capacity that means in that time or that moment for our people. It's also the unstable feeling we get when we step out of our comfort zone or something that forces us to lose some control. There's many of us that don't like to be out of control, but I think if anything, COVID has shown us that we don't have as much control as what we think. And often what is the only thing that is within our control is how we respond to the situations. And are we prepared to step up or step in when we need to? And sometimes that means having done the self-work beforehand. It's not just about the skills you learn. It's not just about the qualifications you have or the experiences. It's also about your self-awareness. It's also about knowing yourself so deeply that you can better respond to situations. You know the stories you tell yourself. You know your own triggers. And that's what really having a heart set and daring greatly means. It means that you're able to know yourself, your purpose, your visions, and your values, and you're able to show up and do your best and be your best self in each and every day and each and every moment. How can you build more of this into your life? For me, it's been about asking myself questions. It's about honest reflection, and it's about creating space for slow reflection, to not only ask the questions, but to take time to find the answers. It's take time to find yourself, to connect with your why and your purpose. Ask yourself what is worth fighting for and what kind of life is worth dying for, because none of us know when we're going to take our last breath. But by doing this self-work and knowing your truth and your heart set, you can create a life that you live each and every day. And some days are going to be better than others, and you're not always going to operate to the highest levels of integrity or your character. But when you have the courage to live, be, and lead from the heart, and you find your warrior within and you live the warrior way, it can allow you to get back up and try again, because it's a process. It's a way of being. It's growth, and it has its seasons. We all have different seasons in our life, and this is something that can guide us through that. It's about journaling. You can talk to people. It's about reading. It's about learning and growing your own mind, your own knowledge, and try something new or challenging every day. That could be physically, mentally, emotionally. It could be about having an uncomfortable conversation with a colleague. It could be about calling out bad behavior and saying, hey, that's actually not okay. And not from a place of judgment, but rather from a place of wanting to understand and empathy and going, actually, that behavior is no longer okay. And I'm going to have the courage to call it out, even if it means standing alone. Creating routines that allow you to have self-care. And deep self-care isn't about just bubble baths or massages. It's about knowing what is the next right thing for you to do. It's about showing up and doing that thing that you find hard, but you know that by doing that thing, it's going to allow you to move forward, or it's going to take a weight off your back. It might be sitting with an old story, because trauma isn't about what's happened to us. It's not the events that happens. It's about what we make that event mean. It's about what happens on the inside from that event. It's about embracing the suck, because this work is hard. It's hard to show up when you've been knocked down. It's hard to believe that you can try again if you've had everything whipped out from under you. And I believe being an Aboriginal business in Australia it can be quite hard. Particularly if you don't have access to the networks, or if you don't know how to do that thing that you want to do, if you were never very good at school. And we always have a social purpose behind our business. It's always to create change in our communities. It's always about being able to provide Aboriginal employment and stuff like that. So, and if you've never been shown how to do business, it can be a really scary place to operate, putting yourself forward and going, buy from me. I'm the right person to buy from, and knowing what your unique value proposition is. I've never known any of this language until quite recently. I stepped into business because I was told that I had to choose between being an involved parent and being a full-time athlete and having dreams, that I either had to choose between that or my job. So I chose my dreams. But I also have the reality of having a family to support, food and bills and a house to cover, but also the expense of being an athlete, of training. I have to manage my own training. That comes with its own costs. And how do you meet people? How do you build relationships? How do you create networks? Because that in itself takes time, especially when you don't know what doors to knock on or what doors to go with. So I'd like to say thank you very much, and I hope you've gotten something out of this. Here are my contact details if you'd like to get involved, if I've triggered anything for you, or you'd like to know more about these concepts. I would love to have a yarn with you, and I'm really looking forward to the next 2 sessions. I'm really grateful to those that have shown up, and really looking forward to some questions. So Nicole has asked the Indigenous Trauma and Recovery course. It's actually a course that was created by Annie Judy Atkinson, and I believe that they're still facilitating it, and it was done through University of Wollongong. And if you'd like to know more, just send me an email, grab my contact details, and I can send you through the relevant information. But there's also a lot of courses, even in Melbourne, that are doing trauma recovery courses that have an Indigenous lens as well. So I can put you in contact with people that are experts in that space. Do we have any other questions, or even just final comments, or anything that might have come up for you through what I've spoken about? Did it trigger anything?
Okay. Hey, Chantel. Hey. Here we go. Yeah, so we've got a question from Jane. I'll put this up now.
Jane, I'm more than happy to come to Brisbane and do some stuff with your kids and run the programs that I do. Just grab my contact details, or just Google chantelthompson.com. I've got my own website, and we can have a conversation about that, because that's what I love to do. No, you're welcome, Julie. And you're right. It's stories and deep listening that can really sometimes help us learn a different perspective, or learn something new as well about ourselves, or different opportunities. I do know Minjum. I have trained with Minjum, and I think she's absolutely amazing. And for those that are listening, Minjum is a mother of 3. She's pint-sized little thing, and she's an absolute killer. She's a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and yeah, she's just phenomenal. Does a lot of work in the community and really inspiring.
All right. Do we have any more questions? Any more questions from the chats?
Yes, I am one to talk about my dreams and share my dreams, even if I don't know what's possible. And those that have been around me from the early days when I first started talking about being a world champion have been there to support me on the way. So competition is a little bit difficult at the moment. I've had to choose my business and my family over competing, because the reality is, being a self-funded athlete, I have invested a lot of time and money the last 5 years into my sport, and it's meant that my family have had to make financial sacrifices for that. So I'm now in a position of trying to establish my business to be stable enough to support my family and also allow me to train. So this is how committed I am to my vision and to my dream of being able to have a national academy of the Warrior Dreaming Academy, where we run mentoring and self-empowerment and trauma-informed self-development programs to help people become their warrior within and learn the warrior way, is my big dream. And in order to make that happen, I want to make the business sustainable enough that it can support that vision. And I want to be a black belt world champion. So in order to be able to get back to training, my kids have gone back home to live on country. They live with their dad full time, and I'm based in Melbourne and Mildura part time. So I travel back and forwards because I do my training here. This is where I serve my business from, and I teach in schools, and I run programs in organizations and corporates, sharing my story and running workshops. That's how committed I am to making this happen, that I'm choosing not to be with my kids full time so that I can pursue the bigger vision I have, but also wanting to be able to take care of them as well, and my nieces and nephews, and have an impact in the wider community and build a business that can support and benefit the community, and one day provide employment and have a ripple effect. Yeah, it's really easy to be hard on yourself. And I'm probably the hardest person on myself, but that's where mentors and having other people to guide me and have conversations with that can keep me grounded. I've got people who can be really, really honest with me. Some people call it their board of directors. Some people call it their inner circle. I call it my group of elders. And some of my elders are younger than me, but it's people I look to for guidance when I need support on what is the next step. Or sometimes I just need that slap up the back of the head that the staunch old aunties can give you when they say you are your own problem, but they come from a place of love. So it's like, okay, you lost your competition because you know you weren't showing up to training and you were letting outside noise distract you from what you were really supposed to be doing, which was going to training and focusing on the process, not the end outcome. It's journaling has been a really great thing, and creating routines and habits that serve me to keep me on track. And it's about getting back to the day to day and what is the next step. But when I do fall over, it's about being honest. Why was I feeling like that? Why did that thing happen? And having compassion and empathy has been something I've had to learn. And reading these books, Brene Brown stuff, is really, really brilliant place to start with. How do you start to create more passion and empathy for yourself? Look, if people want to support me, it's about booking workshops from me. It's about booking services from me, or jumping on board the Warrior Dreaming social impact movement that I'm starting. And what I want to do is, when people book a service from me, I will be taking 5% of that to put into a fund that then allows me to do the grassroots community work and help women and girls and young people be able to learn the skills that they need to show up. So I'm about self-leadership and showing people the skills and creating them opportunities to be able to learn how to do these things for themselves. And if anyone's open to having a conversation about sponsorship to support me in my journey, I want to create a Muhammad Ali, Kathy Freeman, Adam Goods legacy of my own. I'm the first Aboriginal female to win I'm the first Aboriginal person to win a world title in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'll be the first Aboriginal female to get my black belt. But I don't want to be the first. I don't want to be the last. I want to be able to use the knowledge that I have, and sport people get achievement. So it's a good way to cut through. Just want to say thank you so much.
Okay, well, I want to... Oh, yeah.
I just want to say thank you to everyone.
No. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you, Chantel, for coming on. It's really inspirational, telling your story for not just our businesses, but individuals as well. I think at the moment, everybody kind of needs that boost. So yeah, we just want to thank you on behalf of Kinaway. That's going to wrap up today. So for everyone watching, this is the first part of a 3-part series with Chantel. So every Friday, Chantel's going to come on.
Yeah, so next week on Friday.
Yeah, next Friday. So yeah, every Friday for the next 2 weeks at 11 o'clock, Chantel will be coming on for part 2 and 3. So we're very excited for that. And for everybody watching on YouTube, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell button. That way you can be notified when we come on live. And for everyone on Facebook, if you want to give the page a follow, again, and that way you'll be notified when we go online. So yeah, thank you to everyone. Thank you to Chantel. Yeah, this has been Kinaway TV,
and next week will be about grit and grace, and the third session will be about courage, confidence, and purpose, and we'll be providing some tools and tips and strategies on how to do those things, unpacking what they are and what they mean in a modern day context, and how they can help people in personal, work, and business.
Okay, awesome. Well, we can't wait for that. So yeah, again, thank you. Yeah, thank you to everyone. Have a good day, and yeah, we'll see you on the next web series. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.